Follow me, he said to Peter in the boat that day. Didn't say where they might go together, didn't mention how they were going to get to wherever they were going to go. Just follow me. Said the same thing to Matthew sitting in his booth collecting taxes. Extended the same invitation to Philip and Andrew, James and John, and all the rest, and all the women. They followed too, lots of them. Men, women, poor, rich, highborn, and low. They all followed. None of them knew where they were going. No one was sure of the route. Almost no one volunteered to follow him, and those who did, well, that usually didn't work out too well. That rich young man, remember him? Or the one who had just bought the field and wanted to go look at it, or the one whose father had just died and he needed to go bury him, or the one who had just gotten married. They all volunteered, but they could only go so far before they ran into their own self-imposed limits. He wasn't always easy to follow. The expectations were pretty high. Those who put their hand to the plow and then look back, he told them, they're not fit for this. Yet his grace had a way of turning their failures into these life-giving moments. Feed my sheep, he told the one who had thrice denied him. Jesus invited people into a relationship, not offer them admission into a school. Following him is a personal relationship, not a program. That sort of language makes many of us uncomfortable because other folks use that for other ends, and that is troublesome to us. It is, however, biblical language. And we would do well to remember that this path that he invites us to follow places a lot more demands on our hearts than it does our minds. Whoever wants to follow me, he says, must deny themselves, take up the cross, and follow me. The not so subtle hint is that following him will constitute a significant change in our lives. We will cease to be what we were, and we will become something new. If we follow him, each of us will have to leave behind our old ideas of who we are, our old ideas of what's important. We'll have to break away from those roles that we played in our family of origin and that we internalized. Hate those kinds of family ways, he says, if you're going to follow me. At some point for each of us, if we're going to follow this person, there will be a deep sense of uncertainty. We will enter into a place where most of what we think we know about ourselves in the world loses its adhesiveness. It no longer can hold our lives together. None of this can be predicted or controlled. The way of Christ, the way of the cross, the way of discipleship will not abide a prenuptial agreement. It's not a contract. We can't set limits either upon the demands for change or on the depth of intimacy. Yet that's exactly what many of us do. We try to remain in control of this relationship, and the longer we stay around, the more barriers we construct. I like this, I don't like that. I will do this, but I won't do that. This language is true, this language is not true. I will love that one, I will not love that one. And we settle into this very limited spirituality that is an awful lot like a mirrored room, just reflecting us back to ourselves. And that is not what he meant by following. That's just stagnation. I sold my farm products at the Charlottesville Farmers Market for a few years. Every Saturday, I'd load up my truck and with free-ranged eggs and organic vegetables and grass-fed beef and spend the morning selling my goods. I was struck by the number of people who stopped by my stand and considered themselves, in one way or the other, an expert farmer. They gave me all kinds of free advice. Thank God it was free. And also criticism about how to grow food. Many of them had never set foot on the farm, let alone grown a tomato as good as the one they were squeezing the saleable value right out of in front of me. One day I was listening to someone hold forth on chicken feed, and I had this kind of moment of spiritual insight that when it comes to food and medicine and spirituality, many people have a hard time trusting those who have traveled the path before them. The intimacy required in eating, in healing, and loving, that intimacy tends to make loners of many people because they can't go there. The real abuse is found within those systems and institution rightly causes suspicion and skepticism. But deeper than that, underlying that healthy questioning is a sense that many people have, including people in the church, that each of us is an authority unto ourselves, fully capable of mapping out and executing plans for the health of our bodies and of our souls. The problem is that just doesn't work. We don't know what we don't know. I need other people. I need other people if I'm going to grow. I need other people if I'm going to flourish. I need people who have walked this road before me to help me grow spiritually, emotionally, and physically. I need to follow a path that is not fully forged by my own ideations. I can consent, but I can't control. Back in the old days, well, my old days, I used to climb mountains. And one day I was one of 4 people tied into a rope team, and we were heading up a glacier on the side of a dormant volcano. Glacier travel is precarious because you never know if you're on solid ice or if you're walking across a snow bridge that spans a crevasse, which is a deep fissure in the ice that can be 100 or more feet deep. One place is sure footing, the other place is a sure fall. And the leader, the first person on the rope team, finds the twists and turns, navigating pitfalls and assessing risk and determining whether it's worth taking or not. The safest place to put your feet when traveling across a glacier is right on top of the footsteps of the person in front of you. If the ground was solid enough for them, then it's going to be solid enough for you. Follow me, he said to all of them. Follow me, he says to you and to me. Do we dare? Do we follow along this path we do not know to a place we know not where? Do we follow even if this is going to mean to our death? Each of us has our limits. Each of us has our limits. I will go this far and no farther. I will go with him on his entry to Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives, but I will not go with him to his exit at Golgotha. I will follow, but I refuse to look like an irrational believer to my colleagues in the department. I will go to that gathering so long as I can look cool and aloof while I'm there. I will keep my own counsel on theology. I will do service, but I won't do worship. I will take communion, but I'm not interested in virtue. Each of us has our personalized limits that prevent us from following all the way home. There is no better week than this one. This week we call holy. There is no better time to do the prayer and the reflection and the thinking and the conversation we need to do to name to ourselves the limitations we have placed on following him. The only way beyond the invisible boundaries is to make them visible. According to the one who extends the invitation, our very lives are at stake here. Take up the cross, follow me, find your true